Okay, so let me jump right in. So I have been a news editor at Newwin for the past couple of years, and I started covering news regarding the Power Platform like last year.
Uh-huh.
But I do not have any actual hands-on experience with the platform. So
Okay.
through our exchange, I'm hoping you can provide a bit more insight into its working. So could you start off by perhaps providing an overview of how exactly Power BI has evolved over the past few years?
Happy to do it. So the Power Platform is Microsoft's end-to-end low-code development platform, right? And what we're really trying to do, Hamza, is help customers go from insight to action to automation and empower everybody from citizen developers to professional developers, right? And in the Power Platform family, it began with Power BI. So Power BI was the first of the Power Platform, and we launched it about a little more than 5 years ago, so July 2015. Right? And since then, it's become a whole family. So you have Power Apps, you have Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent, right? Um, I run Power BI, or intelligence platform. My colleague Charles Lamanna runs the applications and automation platform, so Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Virtual Agent, right? So that's kind of how we divide and conquer. That's the Power Platform, and the Power Platform shares a bunch of things that in common, right? So we have a common design team. Like it's the same designers that work on my stuff and Charles's stuff. It's a common gateway back to on-premise systems. It's a common set of connectors. Power BI allows you to embed Power Apps into your Power BI report so you can take an action from right there. You can embed a Power BI report into a Power App. You can bring a Power Automate flow into a Power App or into a Power BI report. So all of them are designed together and they're designed to work together so a customer can go from insight to action to automation very, very quickly, right? And all of the Power Platform is extensible through Azure, right? So for example, Power Apps, you build a Power App, you can call an Azure function. Using Power BI, you can call it an Azure machine learning model, right? So all of this is designed so that we call that no cliffs. Like, it's all the high productivity of a low code platform without the cliffs that prevent you from scaling out because you can always drop into code, you can always drop into Azure, right? So that's
Right.
the overall vision for the Power Platform. Now, if I let me see if you have any questions on the Power Platform before I double click on Power BI.
Yeah, so I was actually reading your blog post that you published the other day. So the term data culture has been used around a lot whenever Power BI is mentioned. So could you comment on what exactly data culture is and how driving a data culture has been of paramount importance to your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked me the question. So we even 6 months before we launched, we basically said, hey, our objective is to drive a data culture to help our customers drive a data culture. And what we mean by that, Hamza, is that we're really trying to empower everyone to make every decision with data, right? So it's and so our objective is to really get Power BI in the hands of everybody on planet Earth, but at least starting with the billion users of Office, right?
Right.
And you know that BI has been a very fragmented industry, right? So if you look at any reasonable sized company, they have at least two, three, half a dozen, maybe even a dozen BI tools that they use within the organization, right? And in spite of having so many BI tools, if you look at the penetration of BI tools in the organization, it's only about 15 to 25% in most companies, right? So even looking at the information worker population, right? So which basically means that, hey, this industry has been in a place in which there's a profusion of BI tools and very few people have access, right? So Microsoft's vision, our vision with Power BI is we want to put Power BI in the hands of everybody so that they can make every decision, not just the big ones, the small ones, the medium ones, the salesperson deciding which customer to call, the customer service person being able to diagnose the issue. So we're really trying to help everybody from the CEO to the frontline worker make data-driven decisions, right? And it's influenced a lot of our thinking, like literally every step of the way. The fact that it's a global cloud service means that we talk about it as 5 seconds to sign up, right? And 5 minutes to wow, right? Which is, hey, anybody should be able to sign up within seconds and get real business value within minutes, right? Like, if you don't do that, then you're not going to serve a billion people, right? We think about, we made Power BI Desktop completely free, the authoring tool, right?
Right.
It's not free for a period of time or a limited period. It's just completely free. And it was a shock to the industry when we did that, right? Because I think at that point, the tools were like $2,000 a license and Power BI desktops are completely free. Why? Because we wanted everybody to try it, right? And when you get value is when you share the insights that you find with others, right? That's the point we create value. And we said at that point, we will monetize Power BI, right? And by the way, when we monetize Power BI, we said, hey, we'll pick a price point that again allows you to go drive everybody to use it, right? Which is why we started at $10 per user per month. And then we get further discounts if you buy it through Office 365 E5, which includes Power BI, or you want to distribute at scale, in which you buy Power BI Premium, and the price drops to like maybe $4 per user per month, right? So really price at a point in which you can truly drive, universal adoption, right? And the last thing I would say, Hamza, is we care so much about our community and users. It's actually unbelievable, right? And the community cares back, right? So if you go to, we started this thing very early on of having the community vote on ideas on ideas.powerbi.com, right? You're familiar with it. And that idea itself is not unusual. Some people do it. But what is unusual is how seriously we take the customer feedback, right? So if you go into ideas.powerbi.com, you'll find 24,000 ideas that the community has voted on 500,000 times, right? And me and my team look at that list of features that they ask for every week, top to bottom. And then we pride ourselves on how many votes can we take off the table, right? And so we've covered 200,000 of the 500,000 votes so far. And we ship features every single week in the Power BI service and every month with desktop, and we've been doing it for 5 years, right? So the pace of innovation, focused on what customers want, is something that nobody saw in the BI industry, and generally it's been a first for Microsoft as well. So that's kind of how we think about the data culture over.
So the community is like very significant in terms of whatever sort of direction or the decisions that your team decides to make.
Absolutely. So you'll see that we take their feedback very seriously. And if you go to ideas.powerbi.com and you sort by the top ideas, you will see under review, in development, shipped, et cetera, right? And each time we do this, it really creates a positive cycle because the community says that, hey, we take your feedback seriously. We ship regularly, every week, every month. And which means that gives them incentive to engage more because, when they see that Microsoft is listening, Power BI is listening, and we care and we pride ourselves, right? And I think one of my most favorite examples is when a community member tweeted saying, hey, and it was a really small feature, to be honest, but they tweeted saying, hey, Power BI, can you get this done? And a bunch of other people chimed on. And our CTO, Amir Nets, chimed back in saying, we're getting it done. It'll ship next month, right? And it was a brand new feature, but it just shows that how much we care, right? And I think they love us back. So if you see the passion on Twitter, you see the passion on our community, you'll just see that, hey, this is a positive self-reinforcing cycle.
Right. So jumping directly into the Ignite announcements regarding the platform that have been unveiled so far, we've seen more low-code updates being introduced that directly link to other platforms. So for example, Azure API management connectors can now be used to build Power Platform connectors. And then, of course, the Power Platform has been introduced to GitHub as well. So with changes like these, is bridging the gap between the services by introducing more connections between them or like more ways they can interact and something that you all are focusing on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you think about how we're trying to help customers, I would say, hey, and let me take a Power BI perspective, and then I'll expand to Power Platform overall. So we think about three things, Hamza. One is like, hey, how do we empower every user, right? And there, we're really just trying to do two things. One is we're trying to basically make Power BI desktop PowerPoint for data, right? And why PowerPoint for data? Because everybody knows how to use PowerPoint, right? So things like making the ribbon the same ribbon, things like making sure that theming exactly matches PowerPoint, the way you do grouping, the way you move things around, all of those things exactly matching PowerPoint is because we can get everybody to learn how to use Power BI very quickly, right? And the second part of empowering every user is the AI capabilities in Power BI, and this is one where we've really had a breakthrough. Of the 150,000 customers that Power BI has, over 75,000 today use the AI capabilities in Power BI. Nobody else has this level of broad AI adoption. And that's really because we are able to lean on Microsoft research, which does a lot of fundamental advancements in AI. and basically steal their technology, but create business user and business analyst focused experiences, right? So that's been our focus, and we have introduced two new capabilities in my Ignite blog. One is smart narratives, which automatically summarizes the insights, and the second one is anomaly detection, which we demoed, but it's only coming later this calendar year, which finds anomalies that you should be paying attention to. So that's the first area of investment, empowering every user, right? The second area of investment is empowering every team, right? And that's where a lot of our integrations come in, right? So from a Power BI perspective, we start with Teams as probably number one. It's number one for us. It's probably number one for the Power Platform overall, right? You and I are on Teams today. Teams has over 75 million daily active users. And if I think about it from a BI perspective, BI is inherently a collaborative experience, right? The insights we share are more valuable than the insights we hold for ourselves, right? What we've announced at Ignite is that Power BI now has an app that ships as part of Teams, where you can not only do your collaboration, but it's also your home for analytics and data, right? Teams is number one. The next one that we're investing in is in Excel, right? Excel is the world's most widely used tool for analyzing data, for working with data, right? And I think more customers use Excel today than all of the other BI tools, including Power BI combined, right? And there's probably an order of magnitude difference there, right? So what we're doing is that the challenge with Excel is that because it's so easy, Excel tends to be everywhere with all kinds of data in it, and customers refer to this as Excel sprawl, right? Everybody has a copy of the data. They're emailing it around. They're putting it on shares, right? And you don't know if the people in your organization are making your decisions based on the right data. Is it fresh? Has it gone stale? Are people making decisions based on data that they should even have access to, right? So all of these ends up being a challenge for customers to use Excel effectively. So what we're doing with the Excel Power BI integration is, first is we're saying Excel now just ships with Power BI, right? You don't have to install anything. You don't have to pay anything. Excel now has native Power BI integration, right? What it means is that when you bring a data set in Power BI, it has a lot of security associated with it. Only certain people have access. It has role level security. So what you see might be different from what I see, right? Like I might see US data, you might see Asia data, right? So it has certification. So IT can say, hey, this is certified, right? It's IT approved. It also has MIP labels, Microsoft Information Protection labels. So you can say this is highly confidential, in which case the data should always be encrypted, right? Now, what we're doing is we're taking the power, and it's continuously refreshed, 48 times a day or direct query, etc., right? So we're saying Excel can now natively discover those data sets without leaving Excel, right? So now when people do that, you know that they're using the right data. You know the data is not stale. You know the data is secured based upon permissions-based access and role-level security. And if the data has a MIP label like highly confidential applied, Excel will inherit that label, right, and encrypt that Excel file, right? So this basically means that now Excel sprawl, you can solve, and everybody can use Excel with the right data. So that's a major area of investment for us, and this is, again, nobody else has in the industry, right? So that's the second major integration. The third one is the Power Platform, right? So across Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. I didn't spend a lot of time on the blog on this one, but we're actually doing a lot of work to make sure that cross solutions building all three work well together. So that's the second point about empowering every team. And the third one is about empowering every organization. And this is really about all the capabilities that IT cares about, right? Large-scale semantic models, real-time data analytics, application lifecycle management with GitHub and Azure DevOps, right? So all of these capabilities that IT cares about, you can scale systems end-to-end, reach tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users. Those are the things that we're focused on. And this week we announced major improvements to trust, so enhancements to information protection, but also deeper integration with Azure Synapse Analytics. So that between Power BI and Synapse, it actually becomes a self-learning, self-tuning system. So we'll work with data wherever it is, but if you happen to use Power BI with Synapse, the two systems will work together where they're constantly learning from the end user usage patterns and then optimizing themselves to render the best performance. So these are the major announcements for Power BI.
So I also had a specific question regarding Power BI Premium. So you guys introduced two new premium offerings, and one of these was the premium per user capability. So interestingly, this is said to provide premium features access to only a select subset of users within an organization, right? So how exactly does this differ from Power BI Pro, which already provides licensing to Power BI on a per user basis?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. So we introduced Premium about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah,
And it's grown like crazy because it gives two major capabilities, Hamza. One is it allows unlimited distribution to
right.
consumers, right? So as much as the capacity can support, and because you're paying for your own capacity, we allow you to run advanced workloads that potentially require a lot of compute. Things like building automated machine learning models, things like cognitive services so you can analyze text and images, things like pixel perfect paginated reporting, or being able to run really large data models like 400 gig data models, or do large volume data preparation at scale on Azure Data Lake, right? So we've introduced a whole bunch of premium capabilities that really have moved the state of the industry for BI really forward. However, the challenge has been that because it starts at $5,000 for a P1 node,
Yeah,
it's not been accessible to a lot of departments and a lot of small and medium customers, right?
right.
So the ask has been, how can you get an entry point that is much, much more affordable?
Yeah.
Which is why we're introducing premium per user. So premium per user will go to public preview before end of this calendar year. It'll be completely free during the public preview period, right? So anybody can just sign up and experience all the capabilities of premium, right? Large models, 400 gig data models, that's about 4 to 8 terabytes of data in memory, cognitive services, automated machine learning, all of that stuff on a per user basis for free at no cost during the public preview period. And then once it gets to GA, then we will announce pricing, and it'll be very, very competitive, right, in the industry. So that's how we're thinking about premium per user, and just the excitement of all the announcements. I was surprised to see how much excitement there is for premium per user. I think that's just because so many people wanted these capabilities, but the $5,000 per month price point was just too expensive as a starting point. So that really unlocks a massive new market for us.
Right. So basically, it's providing a more affordable entry point.
For the capabilities that customers have had, but they haven't been able to get their hands on. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So last year, Amin Nets, your CTO, mentioned how Azure targets more of the technical community, developers, and
Yes.
the like, while the Power Platform focuses more on serving the business user community that may or may not be well versed as far as the coding part is concerned. So, as a whole, are your objectives now as the CVP of Power BI still the same, or do you feel that you will expand a bit on the target community looking ahead?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, and thank you for asking this. Our focus is primarily on serving business users and business analysts, right? And business users are business users. They're trying to get their job done. All the glories of Power BI are not that interesting for them. They really want to understand what's going on with their business, right?
Right.
With business analysts, we see a spectrum, Hamza. Like, we have folks that are very lightly skilled. They're basically Excel users, right? And not even very Power Excel users. And then on the higher end, we see folks that are pretty data savvy. They can build very advanced Excel workbooks. They have a reasonable familiarity with data science. They probably, some of them have done some R and Python coding. So all of them are rock stars with Excel formulas and pivot tables, right? So we see
Right.
that spectrum, but all of them, you wouldn't consider them as developers, right? And that is our primary audience, right? However, we do see a need, like when a large customer uses Power BI with the data stack underneath it, we do see a need for us to operate well with the data stack, right? So there are
Right.
data engineers that also use Power BI, but when they're using Power BI or BI professionals, they're typically not just serving business; they're building a large end-to-end system, right? And
Right.
there, the tools that they would primarily use would be, Azure Synapse Analytics, Azure Data Factory, Azure Machine Learning, professional tools. What we're trying to do is we're saying, hey, while you're using those professional tools, you can also use Power BI, and we've integrated our development environments, right? So you
Right.
can build a project end to end, right? So that is what we're focused on. We don't want to confuse customers by saying, well, if you're a pro, data engineer, you know, yeah, start your job in Power BI.
Yeah.
You would start your job in Azure. But when you build systems end to end, we want to make it easy for you to build a full stack. right? Now, when I expand beyond Power BI and look at the Power Platform, we actually see a lot of even pro app developers, right, who are looking for a high productivity environment. Right? If you want to build an app within your enterprise and you want to have it run on your iPhone and you want to run it on your Android, if you're going to use the native APIs of iOS and Android and get each app, the same app through two different stores, that's a very expensive process, even for a pro developer who knows what they're doing, right? Now, Power Apps really helps you there because it gives you a high productivity environment, right? So we are seeing a lot of now pro developers start using Power Apps and Power Automate as a place to start. But what's great about it is that because we've done a lot of the work with APIM and Azure integration, they can actually build both on Power Apps as well as in Azure Functions. So it gives them the ability to build a whole system end to end using a high productivity environment and a high code environment.
Right. So thanks a lot, Arun. I'm just going to wrap this up. As far as the future of Power BI is concerned, what more is in the pipeline for the longer term, and how do you see the platform evolving moving ahead, especially in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I would say three things, Hamza. One is it starts with trust and security, right? Everybody's working from home these days, right? And and corporate data is now living on so many machines that it never used to see before, right? So enabling customers to be able to work securely in a remote environment is paramount, because often customers put their most precious information into Power BI, right? So that's why we've invested deeply in Microsoft Information Protection. That's why we invested in cloud app security. That's why we added bring your own key. So in terms of the security capabilities that Power BI has introduced, they really have been massive over the last 18 months. And it has really helped customers, especially when COVID has hit. So that's, I would say, security and trust are number one for us. Number two is making sure that Power BI is just deeply integrated into your collaborative experiences, right? We really do see that Teams as being the home for Power BI, where you can find your analytics, you can discuss your analytics, you can discuss your data, all of those things just living together, right? And like every team that's formed has a goal that they want to accomplish. Often that progress towards the goal is tracked in Power BI, right? So it's just such a natural fit. The third area is really AI. With the amount of data that's available, with the frequency at which it's changing and the volume, you cannot have humans figure this out anymore, right? You have to have machines help humans, right? So on AI is where we are making a lot of progress, because we're able to do things like, hey, automatically find the influences that drove an outcome, right? Automatically decompose your KPI into the dimensions that drove the results. Automatically generate a natural language summary. Automatically identify anomalies, right? So all of these things, our vision for Power BI there is that, hey, we should be able to tell you what matters to you. You shouldn't have to go hunting around to discover it, right? And that's the third area of investing in.
All right. So those were all the questions from my side, and this has been a really illuminating experience. And thanks a lot.
Well, very nice meeting you, Hamza. And thanks so much for taking time. I know it's really late for you, and next time we can may find a more convenient time for you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks a lot. And
Thank you,
good luck with the rest of the Ignite conference.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.